Yeah, Evan, it would be the Washington Commanders. Let's be honest about it. They came out of nowhere. Jane Daniels played elite football. He put the team on his back. The roster was not that talented last season. They exceeded any expectations. But I give Adam Peters credit. He clearly knew this, that the roster wasn't good enough. So they were aggressive. They made a huge trade for Laremy Tunsil, one of the best free agent moves. They made the trade for Deebo Samuel. They signed Noah Brown. I know he got hurt this week.
Welcome back to the Sportsnaut Interview. I am Evan Groat, your host, and today we are joined by NFL insider Adam Caplan. And Adam is here today to talk NFL football with us. We had several mini camps take place this week, so there's a lot to get into. Adam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, good to be with you.
Awesome. Now let's start in the state of Ohio, the AFC North. There's a lot of stories coming out of some of that division. Let's start with the Cleveland Browns. They've got a little quarterback competition underway. Shedeur Sanders, of course, is being talked about a lot. He's getting a lot of attention. He's competing with veteran Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, as well as fellow rookie Dylan Gabriel. So I just kind of want to get some of your insight. Are you hearing any intel from inside the Browns building? And I know it's early, but what do you think about Sanders possibly winning this job out of training camp?
Well, it's good. He's a ways away. I mean, he's got a long way to go here. Let's be honest. They're in t-shirts and shorts. I've covered this business for 28 years. I put very little stock in who's winning or losing jobs. Nobody's winning a job or losing a job at OTAs. It's never happened. But you want your rookies to get off to a good start. Okay, this is what we call having the learning phase. And for a guy like Sanders, we know he's played a very tough schedule at Colorado. So he's been through it before in terms of the tough level of college football, but this is the pros.
Right. And
you're not going to know if you're a Browns fan until how he's really doing until we get through training camp and the preseason. I've likened the offseason to AA baseball. It's very light. They're in t-shirts and shorts. Training camp is AAA. Major leagues is the regular season. So just be careful with these reporters who put out tape or a practice. They'll put out one snapshot of one throw, and all of a sudden the guy's a Hall of Famer. Just relax, let it play out. Sanders is very talented, had mostly second or third round grades from clubs. Unfortunately, he dropped. But the bottom line is he's a talented quarterback. He'll have a shot, but we got to get to training camp first.
Yeah, I like that analogy you made there with AA, AAA, and then eventually to the major leagues. It's a great way to look at it. Now, I want to jump over to Cincinnati. A lot coming out of their camp. It seems like that's been the case the last couple years. We've got the situation with Hendrickson and now the rookie Stuart as well. Is it a bad look for Cincy? It just seems like year after year we have these players who are a little bit unhappy, wanting new contracts. I know that happens around the league, but they recently paid Burrow. They did get it done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins last off season. But what is going on in Cincinnati?
Yeah, and the Higgins one, I got to be honest with you, that was a surprise around the league because their defense at times was not competitive last season, and they need a lot of help. They've got issues in the back end. Pass rush is inconsistent. And you got Shamar Stewart, who's a raw player who needs to be there in training camp. They got to get the contract clause thing straightened out. The Bengals want to do something that's very odd that other teams simply don't do. So that's a concern. You mentioned Trey Hendrickson. What I always tell people is that there's no urgency from clubs until there's something over their head. Well, what would be over their head is the start of training camp. That's when yes, Trey Hendrickson's willing to take fines and not show up to OTAs, but you know how serious it is and how that could be once he starts missing training camp practice, getting those fines. And so what happened with Chris Jones when he missed camp and he wasn't ready till the regular season, he forfeited a lot of money. Then that could be a problem. Yeah. And let's not forget the Bengals have a new defense coordinator, and Al Golden, former Temple head coach, Miami head coach, who's been an assistant in the National Football League before with the Lions. Now he's coming back to the NFL as their defense coordinator in his first year with the Bengals. So they need all the help they can get And you can't keep asking Joe Burrow to carry this team. And that's the problem with their front office and their philosophy. It's just they can never seem to get it right. I mean, even when they went to the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow was able to carry him despite having a less than stellar offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talking about the contract stalemate with Hendrickson, there's a few other players, noteworthy players from around the league who are also seeking new contracts. James Cook in Buffalo, Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt, Terry McLaurin. There's a few guys who want to get a new deal done. Do you think that any of these has the potential to get ugly and possibly have a long-term holdout during training camp?
We're not going to know until we get there to training camp. I mean, deals could get done like as you and I speak today, or they could get done closer to training camp. I never worry about these deals until we get to training camp. I've covered this business for so long. I've seen it. I mean, it's funny how like you'll talk to a general manager and say, "Man, we're so far apart." Like 2 days before training camp, and all of a sudden, magically gets done
Yeah.
because the clubs have to have something hanging over their head, and they don't want it to be a distraction. Now, the Steelers typically, once the regular season starts, they will not negotiate. That's been their stance. They've rarely done it. There's always exceptions to negotiate in season, but they don't like doing it. And quarterbacks, by the way, don't like doing it. They don't want to be distracted. So let's go to McLaurin. Look, McLaurin did his deal 3 years ago. It's outdated. He needs to be taken care of. I would expect this to be resolved sometime by the start of training camp or just after it. He's just too good. He's too valuable. Highly regarded player, class guy. Just been a great story development. Josh Harris, their new owner. I expect him to do the right thing here. But again, we're in June. What urgency do you have? You only have urgency when you know you have something that you got to get done, and we're not there yet. And then the T.J. Watt thing, yeah, that's another one. Now this one's a little harder in that, yes, he's worth extending and being taken care of, which I expect to get done. But Evan, at his age and his injury history,
Yeah.
you got to be careful here. Now, they really like Nick Herbig, who's a fourth rounder from 2 years ago. He's Nate Herbig's younger brother. Nate's been a journeyman interior offensive lineman. Nick's one of the better third edge rushers in the NFL that fans, unless you're Steelers, don't know about. He's really good. He could be Watt's successor years down the road here, but Herbig's on the third year of his 4-year rookie deal. And now, if you're the Steelers and T.J. Watt, now they do contracts, and he turns 31, by the way, in October, so he turns 31 this season. The Steelers typically do contracts structured this way. It's a huge signing bonus, 1 year fully guaranteed base salary, and they typically don't guarantee salaries after that. So it's not going to be easy to get through this contract. I expect them again to get this done. Take a little bit of time here. Again, I'm not like fans and some of the media who make a big deal of this stuff. These things usually get done. Sometimes there's a little bit of short-term pain. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. Now with Watt's former deal, the last deal, they actually went outside their structure. I think they did 3 years of fully guaranteed money. They rarely do that. That's just, they did it. And I always say in the NFL with anything, there are exceptions to anything. You have to understand that. Teams are allowed to change their mind. They're human beings. They can change their mind if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But Watt's one I expect to eventually get taken care of. The Parsons thing's going to get done. It's typical Jerry Jones waiting. He's going to have to pay over $40 million per season. He could have gotten this done a couple years ago. He didn't. He waited. He's waited till now, and it's going to be costly. But we've seen this now with Dak Prescott's deal, which was landmark, and that's what happened when you wait.
Yeah, good stuff there. Now, we talked a lot about T.J. Watt in Pittsburgh. You brought up quarterbacks and whatnot. Let's stay in Pittsburgh. There's an old face in a new place now, Aaron Rodgers. He
Yeah.
held out on making a decision. He made it just before the start of minicamp. I think a lot of us knew all along it was going to be Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It is Pittsburgh. Does he have anything left in the tank? And how do you see this working out in Pittsburgh?
That's a good question. So I give the guy credit for not missing a game last season. He had, in my reporting, I think a moderate hamstring strain and a knee sprain. And I know there was some overlap with both injuries. I don't know how he did it. I give the guy credit. He was beat up physically. He did the best that he could. He turns 42, I believe. in
Yeah.
December, if I'm not mistaken. That's concerning. Yeah, he does. That is correct. December 2nd. That does concern me. Does he have something left? Yes, he showed he had something left, but worry about the body breaking down. I know that the Steelers were happy to get Mason Rudolph back as a backup. They would have gone the veteran route had they would have looked elsewhere to bring someone else in had they not gotten Rodgers. At the very least, to compete against Rudolph or just be the starter, but they didn't have to go there because Rodgers signed. I'm glad he showed up to their mandatory camp this week. That's good. They got to get on the same page with not just Metcalf, we worked out with in the spring, everybody else, and we'll see. But it's interesting if you look at the betting odds, the over under total is not increased. They're still plus 100 at over 8.5 wins. That is remarkable to me that
Yeah.
it hasn't even moved at all. Depending, like at MGM, it hasn't moved at all. Still plus 100.
Yeah, that's hard to believe, because you think about years ago getting Aaron Rodgers on your team, you would think that your odds would increase dramatically, but just not the case anymore at his advanced age. But looking around the league now, we had free agency, we had the draft. Is there a team or two that you can pinpoint that you feel like, at least on paper right now, have really improved themselves going into training camps in a month and a half here?
Yeah, but it'll be the Washington Commanders. Let's
Mhm.
be honest about it. They came out of nowhere. Jane Daniels played elite football. He put the team on his back. The roster was not that talented last season. They exceeded any expectations. But I give Adam Peters credit. He clearly knew this, that the roster wasn't good enough. So they were aggressive. They made a huge trade for Laremy Tunsil, one of the best free agent
Mhm.
moves. They made the trade for Deebo Samuel. They signed Noah Brown. I know he got hurt this week. Um, Josh Connolly in the draft, who wound up being the right tackle. They knew they could not live with Brandon Coleman as their left tackle. They made that decision out of last season. He wouldn't be their left tackle. He's just not a left tackle. He's a right tackle or a guard. Bringing in Javon Kinlaw. It's a big contract, but Peters knows him from the days with the Niners. Had a really good season. I shouldn't say great, but a good season with the Jets. Best season as a pro. Wise, a veteran edge rusher who I like. You're getting Marshawn Lattimore now for a full off season. Let's hope he stays healthy with the hamstring problems. Sanders Stroll, who turned out to be a big surprise playing on the outside. Quan Martin now at safety. This is a much better roster now. That we know from pillar to post that they're deep enough now to compete at even a higher level. I know the Eagles boat raced them in the playoffs. That was a blowout in the end, but now they're tightening up in there, the NFC East and the NFC with what they've done this offseason.
Yeah, and going back to our conversation about Terry McLaurin, and you mentioned what's the rush. I guess the one thing that I could point to would be that obviously this team feels that they're in win now mode, having the
Yeah,
success they had last year. They don't want any distractions during training camp. They want to get their best players in there, so that could be one reason why they'd want to get something done.
I wouldn't worry
Soon.
about that.
Yeah.
Just so you understand that it has little to no impact on the team. It
Mhm.
only has an impact, Evan, if the player doesn't show up in shape. Then that's a problem.
Right.
I'm saying he would. The stuff, the media narratives, clubs don't care about that stuff. I've lived this thing when I would put reporting out about, oh, this is not good for team chemistry. Generally turns out to be nonsense. I'm just telling. I know people like to blow stuff up, but it generally is nonsense. There's very little carryover. Only if now the other part, in addition to not being shape, if the player's a distraction, that's a different story. If the guy doesn't handle his business the right way, that could be a problem. Now, Brandon Ayuk, remember his holdout, his
Yeah.
contract issue. There were concerns about, he signed late. Was he good enough football shape? Then he tore his ACL. But in terms of team chemistry, more often than not, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think back to Antonio Brown with the Raiders with the whole helmet thing, and that was a team distraction.
He's a bizarre guy. But
Yeah, yeah.
you're talking about another island here. You're talking about a guy. I was there that training camp with the
Yeah.
Raiders.
Mhm.
That's something I'll never forget. With the feet,
Oh, that's right.
the craziness of his feet being dude, my man. If you ask me, what are the five strangest training camps of my career going back to 2002? That Raiders training camp is my top five. That was absolutely bizarre with Mike
That
Mayock as the GM. That wasn't his fault. That was a John Gruden, one of Antonio Brown, and the craziness of that training camp.
absolutely. This is why we love your insight. This is why we have you on. I'm going to get you out of here on this last topic here. 7 new head coaches were hired in this offseason, coaching cycle. Who is the one or two that you feel is in a position where they can get things turned around a little bit quicker?
Ben Johnson
Yeah.
of the Bears, as
Mhm.
someone who used to work with the Lions told me. Um, you're not gonna have to wait very long to see if it's gonna work out because he's an in your face coach. Yes, he's a first time head coach, but he's got great command. He gets on his players. He coaches hard. I'm excited for the Bears, not just their offense, which is going to change. The scheme's going to change. It's the way they're going to be coached, the accountability factor, which they didn't have under the former staff. You're going to see that thing. I'm very interested to see that. No question about it. That'd be my number one.
Yep.
If you look at the coaching changes, that's the one I'm probably. Yeah, I would say that one I'm most excited about. And then Aaron Glenn, just because from what I've heard from behind the scenes, there's also a level of accountability he's bringing in there. He knows that building. You know, he played there. I've heard from people that he's brought in a good sense of togetherness and accountability and the way that you need to run a football team. So I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah, one quick follow-up there with Ben Johnson. Do you think, he'll get the most out of Caleb Williams? Are we gonna see a much better version? I know it's year 2, we
Yeah.
generally see some growth, but because of the coaching, we'll definitely see a better version of
Oh
Caleb
yeah, he'll be
Williams.
better. Now here's the thing, Evan. How much is he going to take the coaching? That's he needs to be coached hard. He was undisciplined last year with his play. We're just talking on the field. I'm not talking anything off the field. I'm just talking about his style of play. He's got to play within structure.
Yeah.
And if the pocket breaks down, go ahead, man. Show your ability. But he's got to play a different brand of football. And I'm looking forward to that marriage though because Williams is super gifted. I remember when I wrote about him in my first mock draft last year in January of 24, and I never changed it. I had Caleb Williams there the first time, and I never changed it for his Pro Football Network. And I just felt because he's so gifted, his upside's tremendous if he could get the right coaching. And he's going to have it with Ben Johnson. I'm very excited to see how these guys work together.
Yeah, me too. Excited about it. And guess what? It'll be here before we know it. Training camp just a few weeks away now. Adam Caplan, thank you so much for your time today, all your great insight. We love having you on, and thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you.